sheriff's look. This time I'm telling you the truth. I'm locked inside the Vitelli's basement with this guy.
Rocky Road?
One actor exposed the abuse and exploitation of child actors in Hollywood, while another disappeared for 20 years until one moment changed everything. But you know what's even crazier? The Goonies wasn't supposed to work, because the kids ignored the script and drove the director crazy, until he changed one single thing that changed everything. Instead of forcing them to follow the script, he let it all go. And somehow, that chaos turned into one of the most memorable movies of your childhood. But with that kind of fame came pressure, silence, and sacrifices that some of them are still living with today. 6 children walked out of that Oregon basement in 1985 with no idea what the next 41 years would cost them. Here's what really happened to the kids who never said die. In 1984, Sean Astin was 13 years old, braces, inhaler, and all, and made believing in a dead pirate's treasure map feel like the most reasonable thing in the world. This was his first film ever, his debut, and he carried it. But here's what's even crazier. The career that followed was built on exactly the same thing. Mikey was unflinching loyalty and the willingness to carry the weight. Rudy, Samwise Gamgee across 3 Lord of the Rings films. Then Bob Newby in Stranger Things, a show so deliberately invoking the spirit of the Goonies that casting Astin felt like the writers closing a loop. In September 2025, Astin was elected national president of SAG-AFTRA, the union representing every working actor in America. He told an interviewer that Mikey Walsh today would probably be running a museum dedicated to One-Eyed Willie's caves. That's not a joke. That's exactly right. In 2026, Sean Astin is 54 years old. The believer never stopped believing. He just found bigger things to believe in. But while Astin built his career on the same sincerity he started with, Josh Brolin took a much longer road and spent over 20 years so lost that he turned to day trading just to survive. In 1984, Josh Brolin was 16 years old with something most actors spend careers chasing: presence. Brand was the guy who'd already seen everything. The Goonies opened huge, and then Brolin's career went almost nowhere for 2 decades. TV guest spots, forgotten films. By his own account, he turned to day trading on financial markets to keep the lights on. The coolest guy in the Goondocks spent 20 years being the guy Hollywood couldn't figure out. But here's what's even crazier. The Cohen brothers saw something in him that 2 decades of casting directors had missed. No Country for Old Men changed everything overnight. Within a year, he had an Oscar nomination for Milk. Within a decade, he was Thanos, Cable, and Gurney Halleck in Dune.
The Thanos thing, if they called me in London right now and said, let's do this, I'd be like, I'll be there tomorrow. 4 to 6 times a year. I talk to the Russos probably 4 to 6 times a week.
In 2024, he published a memoir from under the truck telling the whole story, including the wilderness years, with the candor of a man who has nothing left to hide. In August 2025, asked about a Goonies sequel, Brolin said he didn't want to taint the memory of the original. That's a man who knows exactly what the past is worth. In 2026, Josh Brolin is 58 years old. He took the longest road out of Astoria and somehow ended up exactly where Brand always looked like he was going. But if Brolin's story is about a long-delayed arrival, Huy Quan's is something else entirely, because what happened to him after the Goonies wasn't a detour, it was a disappearance. And then, one of the most extraordinary comebacks in Hollywood history. In 1984, Huy Quan was 12. He'd already been short-round in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, a role he got because his younger brother went to an open casting call and the directors picked Kay instead. The year after Indiana Jones, he played Data. 2 iconic films before age 13. The trajectory looked obvious. And then it stopped. But here's what's even crazier. It didn't stop because Quan failed. It stopped because Hollywood in the 1990s had no roles for Asian American actors. He went to audition after audition. He got nothing for years. He became a fight choreographer on X-Men, an assistant director for Wong Kar-wai, someone who understood how films were made and had quietly accepted he might never be in them again. His wife told him for 20 years that his time would come. He didn't always believe her. Then in 2018, he watched Crazy Rich Asians 3 times in the theater and cried each time, and realized there was a world now where a face like his could be the lead. In 2022, Everything Everywhere All at Once changed everything. He won the Golden Globe, the SAG Award, and on the 12th of March 2023, the Oscar.
And the Oscar goes to Huy Quan.
My mom is 84 years old, and she's at home watching. Mom, I just won an Oscar.
On that stage, he thanked his wife and his Goonies brother for life, Jeff Cohen. Because Jeff Cohen had become an entertainment lawyer, and it was Jeff Cohen who negotiated the contract for the role that won Huy Quan the Oscar. 2 kids from a 1,985 adventure film. 1 quit to become a lawyer. 1 quit because the industry quit on him. And 40 years later, the lawyer handed the actor back his career. In February 2026, Quan received his hand and footprint ceremony at the TCL Chinese Theater. And his Goonies co-stars showed up: Brolin, Feldman, Cohen, Green, standing together on Hollywood Boulevard 41 years after Astoria. Data always believed in the Gadgets. Turns out the Gadgets believed in him too. But while Quan's story is the miracle of this group, Jeff Cohen's is the one that sneaks up on you, because the boy who did the truffle shuffle made a quiet decision that ended up changing both their lives. In 1984, Jeff Cohen was 12 and completely hilarious. Chunk was the kid who talked too much, got everyone into trouble, and had the warmest heart in the Goondocks. And then puberty hit. He said publicly, without apparent bitterness, that he simply stopped getting roles when he grew up. His last screen credit was a 1,991 Disney TV movie. He was barely a teenager. But here's what's even crazier. He studied business at Berkeley, got his law degree, used relationships from the Goonies set, including with director Richard Donner, to build a career in entertainment law, founded his own firm. And then, in 2022, negotiated the deal for his childhood best friend's comeback role, the role that won the Oscar. When Key said "My Goonies brother for life," Jeff Cohen from that stage, Cohen was sitting in the audience watching it happen. In 2026, Jeff Cohen is 50 years old. He doesn't act. He represents actors. 2 kids from Astoria. 1 story that turned out to belong to both of them. But while Cohen and Quan's story is about loyalty rewarded, Martha Plimpton's is about something quieter, a woman who never needed a comeback because she never stopped working. In 1984, Martha Plimpton was 14 and the most self-possessed person on set. Steph was the sardonic one, the one who saw through everything and said so. That wasn't an accident. Plimpton was the daughter of actors Keith Carradine and Shelley Plimpton, raised inside the New York theater world. She knew exactly what a set was and what she was there to do. But here's what's even crazier. While most of her co-stars spent years finding their footing after the Goonies, Plimpton barely paused. Ron Howard cast her in Parenthood with Steve Martin in 1989. Stage work, television work, a career built not on one defining role, but on decades of consistent craft. She won an Emmy for The Good Wife in 2012.
And so, is a great category of women, so the Emmy goes to Martha Plimpton for The Good Wife! She was just here!
Voiced a character in Frozen 2, played a senator in The Regime. She's in the Netflix miniseries East of Eden in 2026. In 2026, Martha Plimpton is 56 years old. She never needed a comeback because she never went anywhere. Steph always looked like the most prepared person in the room. Turns out she was. But while Plimpton kept building quietly inside the industry, Corey Feldman's story is about something much darker, because what happened to him after the Goonies wasn't just about a career. It was about what Hollywood was doing to its children, and his refusal for 4 decades to stop saying so. In 1984, Corey Feldman was 13 and already the most experienced person on set. He'd been in Friday the 13th, Gremlins, and knew exactly how Hollywood worked. Mouth was the translator, the one who said things in ways other people couldn't. It was, in retrospect, a perfect metaphor, because Feldman spent the next 4 decades translating something the industry kept refusing to hear. But here's what's even crazier. By the time the Goonies opened in 1985, Feldman had already been surrounded by men who were abusing him and his closest friend, Corey Haim. He has said he was molested by multiple people connected to the industry.
I'm saying that there are people that were the people that did this to both me and Corey that are still working, they're still out there, and they're some of the richest, most powerful people in this business.
And they are.
And they do not want me saying what I'm saying right now.
And Haim, he's said, had it far worse beginning at age 11. The films kept coming. Stand By Me, The Lost Boys. But so did the drugs, the trauma, and the silence that fame couldn't fix. Corey Haim died in 2010 at 38 years old.
Breaking news from Los Angeles, where 80s teen heartthrob Corey Haim has died from an apparent overdose. The 38-year-old was rushed to a Burbank hospital overnight. He was often paired with Corey Feldman as the two Coreys.
After Haim died, Feldman became louder, not quieter. In 2013, on national television, Barbara Walters told him he was damaging an entire industry. He published his memoir anyway. In 2020, he released a documentary naming names at the cost of years and nearly all of his own money. The premiere was sabotaged. The response left him, he said, with more trauma than the original abuse. In 2025, he was one of the first eliminated from Dancing with the Stars. He still makes music. He still speaks. In 2026, Corey Feldman is 54 years old. His career never returned to what it was in 1987. His best friend is dead. The industry largely ignored what he spent 40 years trying to tell it, but mouth always said the quiet parts out loud. Feldman turned out to do exactly the same at much higher personal cost, with much less reward, for much longer than anyone expected. In 1985, they were between 12 and 16 years old. They didn't know they were making a classic. They didn't know what the next 41 years would bring. Some of them were already carrying things the cameras never saw. One became the president of the Actors Union. One became Thanos after 20 years of near obscurity. One quit to become the lawyer who handed his best friend an Oscar. One nearly disappeared from the industry entirely and then stood on the biggest stage in cinema with the gold in his hands. One never stopped working. And one spent 4 decades being told to stop talking about what was done to him as a child, and never stopped. None of this was in the script, but they said it in 1985 and they meant it, even before they knew what it would actually cost them. Goonies never say die.